So good evening and welcome to a regular meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. Today is the first day of February 2022. It is 6 p.m. and the fact that it falls on a Tuesday and we have our regular meetings on the first and third Tuesday, I'd like to call this meeting to order and invite you to stand and join us tonight in an invocation led by Pastor David Parker with the First United Methodist Church. And immediately following that, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor and council members and citizens. If you feel so inclined, please join me in prayer. Merciful and loving, holy and gracious God, align our hearts and our minds this evening in these council chambers with collaborative collection of your elected city servants who all aspire to the vision of a thriving and healthy, a diverse and dynamic community. We thank you for the opportunities as well as the challenges that come from democracy and from the governing of many peoples who have many values, visions, convictions on the right pathways for decisions that we make. We pray, Lord, that you will lend generous portions of your Spirit's wisdom and discernment to our mayor, to our council members, our city staff, our first responders. Make their administration of our community both challenging and exciting, affirming and rewarding, as they seek to bridge the peoples and positions of our community into one united reality that brings blessing and vitality to all. And so protect our community from harm, elevate the poor and marginalized, educate our children in safety and dignity, prosper our economy, reconcile us in our racial diversities, engage the apathetic, quiet the complainers, and instill in every single citizen the hope and practice of civility. Let your favor and blessing fall upon all of us this night. Through Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Pastor Parker, please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wasn't sure whether we were going to stay ahead of the pastor or not on that. But I think we finished okay. So this evening, due to COVID-19, we'll have both a physical meeting and virtual per Washington Proclamation 20-28. Due to Governor Inslee's order, masks are required for everyone in council chambers, regardless of vaccination status. City staff are participating via teleconference, for the most part at least. Guests that are included in staff presentations will be excused from the Ring Central meeting at the conclusion of the agenda item as appropriate. Tonight's meeting may be viewed live via YouTube and on cable channel 10, HD 1090. So I think I'll ask our city clerk to please do a roll call at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Munns.
Present.
Councilmember Heisen.
Present.
Councilmember Evans.
Present.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer.
Present.
Councilmember Wiesner.
Present.
Councilmember Stuckey.
Present.
Mayor, all council members are present.
Thank you, Julie. And so that we will just move on then at this point in time to our approval of our agenda. Hope you've all had a chance to look at the agenda, and if we don't have any suggested changes, we'll just move ahead with the agenda as approved. Under section number 2, we actually do have a couple of presentations this evening. And for the first presentation, I'm not even going to say what the award is, but I'd like to call on our Development Services Director, David Kuhl. David?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you tonight. We have something special for you. Tonight we'd like to present an award to Mr. Ferd Johns, who's been involved with Main Street for quite a long time. We'd like to present him the Small Town America Civic Volunteer Award. This particular group is going to award 100 of these nationwide, and there were over 700 applications. So this is really exciting for us. Ferd was instrumental helping with the downtown design guidelines a few years back. And he's also instrumental in helping us get the vision to have corridors through downtown. And that will be shown through the Serendipity Lane project that we're also working on right now. So Ferd is a professor emeritus in architecture, and he's bringing those skills to us as a volunteer. So to my far right is Margaret Livermore with Main Street, and we'd like to present him with the Certificate of National Recognition, as well as these stickers they've sent along for national recognition, and the letter announcing the award. So Ferd, this is for you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And I just want to say what a great pleasure it's been working with David and Margaret on these projects, and the mayor as well. And I'm also, I'd just like to say I know the mayor is grateful that I'm not going to make a speech tonight. Thank you.
Hey, so I will say that, oh, got somebody else? I will say that I was fortunate to serve on that Main Street board when they were first getting formed. Margaret was around that table at the very beginning, and my wife was also a member of that, and we have been lucky in Oak Harbor to have Ferd come to our fine city and spend the time that he does down at the Marina and helping through the many things, the many projects. It's not just serendipity, but Ferd, thank you very much. We love you, man. Hope you're enjoying it here. Yeah, well, let's go ahead. We'll just take a few minutes here so that council can congratulate Ferd. So take an intermission here for just a minute, a couple of minutes. Okay, we'll reconvene this February 1st regular meeting, Oak Harbor City Council. Short intermission to congratulate Ferd Johns. Small Town America Civic Volunteer Award. Nice job. We'll move on then to our next presentation this evening. We have the Oak Harbor School District, and this evening we have our Superintendent, Karst Brandsma, for a presentation, and my notes say he may come in person, and he certainly has. Been around and introduced himself. Karst, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. With me today, I brought my own cheer staff. I have School Board Member Director Lynn Goebel, and next to her is our Director of Communications, Conor Laffy. So thank you for having us here today. We have a little story to tell you. As you know, we have a measure on the February 8th ballot. I've had the pleasure of working in public education for 44 years. This is the second time I've actually had a chance to work in the Oak Harbor School District. I retired as superintendent of schools in Everett, Washington 12 years ago, and since that time I've been helping school districts transition into new leadership. And we're in the process now of a new superintendent search, and that process is starting to pick up speed and will conclude on or before about March 5th. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the bond. The bond is a measure that one of the really 5 most important things a school board does besides select a school superintendent manage a $100 million budget. They approve curriculum that's taught to our community's children, and they also make sure that our facilities are safe, dry, and warm to deliver meaningful instruction to our students and to make sure our facilities are safe for our staff too as well. The board looked long and hard. I must say I've worked in smaller districts and I've worked in larger districts. This is the first district I've actually worked in twice in, and it's also one of the best districts that I've had the opportunity to work in. What a wonderful community, what a wonderful place to raise your children, what a great place to send your kids to school, what wonderful staff there are. The bond is something that is going to be actually on the ballot that will, the previous bond was some 16 years ago. In 2006, the community approved a bond for the new high school. That bond is sunsetting and will be paid off in full at the end of this calendar year. And if the voters approve this, the collection for this particular measure then would start in 2023, or a year from now, with construction to begin in 2024 and all projects to be done hopefully by 2031. So it's a long process. The board has been looking at it all the way since 2017. They've had close to 12 study sessions, and staff and the architects and engineers and city officials have been working over the last 14 months putting together the final plans for these particular projects. So, see if I can, you want to go ahead and throw that up one slide? There we go. Thank you. So, Oak Harbor applied for a grant for the Department of Defense. They were awarded about $1 million to do pre-planning, and part of that pre-planning includes some of the artist rendition and a lot of the background and fine figures that they were able to generate in preparation for this project. The board had hired NAC Architects and also D.A. Davidson Bond Counsel. Those are the same two professional organizations that completed and helped the district assist in completing the high school that was completed on time and on budget back in 2006. They looked at every site in the school district, of which we have 11. They identified the areas that were in most need, and unfortunately there were more areas in need than we had capacity for budget for, but these are the 5 particular projects that they looked at. A couple items that are important to know is that they're increasing the student capacity at all these schools, which will eventually assist us in eliminating approximately 30 portable classrooms around the district at the elementary level. The bond has a timeline in which we're going to start with Oak Harbor Elementary School and actually build out at Fort Nugent. That's a property we bought some 20 years ago in preparation for the day when growth and student enrollment was such a place that they would look for a neighborhood school. These projects are in which no student or staff is going to be displaced. So what happens in a lot of districts, you don't have a place to put kids, so you end up bringing in portable housing, or a 1 or a 2 year project becomes a 5-year project because you have to work around delivering instruction. You can't just do all the construction in the summertime. But these projects actually will be able to complete the projects while the kids are in their current school and then move them to a new school, and it's kind of a rotation, which is unique. Not every school district is allowed to do that. You can see on the screen here and here, one of the sites is Clover Valley. That's on naval property. That site is going to be moved to this other red dot, which is also on Navy property. We're going to get that particular hand in hand in our K-12 connection off of the Navy base general and get it out of the flight pattern and reduce the noise quite a bit. We're adding the school out at Nugent Park. Most of our schools in Oak Harbor are kind of along the Whidbey corridor, and a lot of times parents don't understand why their kids are being bused past the school in order to get to their current school. It's a little confusing. This is an attempt to get more walkers, less bus transportation, save money, and eliminate portables. You can see from our property in Oak Harbor, we're pretty much have a lot of untaxable land from a school district standpoint with the Naval Air Station Whidbey Island. And with that, that's why we applied for Department of Defense assistance to help us with 2 schools, which will help save money for the community from having to rebuild those projects on Navy property. The first property is Oak Harbor Elementary. This is going to be built at Fort Nugent Park. This is a combination of local dollars and what's called School Construction Assistant Program dollars, or SCAP. The price tag, this is the first project, and the price tag is about $75.5 million. These artist renditions are just basically that. The final drawings haven't been done yet until after the voters approve the measure. The second property is Crescent Harbor, out on Crescent Harbor Road. This one is 80% funded by the Department of Defense. It requires a match of 20% or $13.6 million with local funds. This is an example of the type of facility we're trying to get into our elementary schools. If you've been to our high school, you'll say, this is a darn fine school, and what a great place for high school kids to grow and graduate from. All of our schools need to basically have that same opportunity, like many communities do. This is a big open space in the center of the complex. It has a gymnasium, opens into a common area for cafeteria, and an auditorium that then would open up for large group spaces. It really will open up the citizens' opportunity to use the school district facilities for large group gatherings. It also has a lot of natural light, which a lot of our buildings do not currently. The next project is taking the old Olympic View Elementary School and moving that to the existing Olympic View Elementary, moving it to the existing Oak Harbor Elementary School. The concept of building and then tearing down and replacing is actually a way to make sure that our kids maintain construction without being disrupted. This corner building here is a community landmark. It's kind of a historical treasure. That's going to be preserved, and architecturally we're going to blend that into the rest of the campus that will be there too as well. You know, one of the things the board did before they even got started was determine, is it more cost efficient to renovate existing structure or actually build new? And with today's building codes and safety features and modern needs for electricity, technology, and air handling, it was cost prohibitive to actually rebuild existing schools. And so all these sites are going to be brand new with the exception of that building right there, which is the corner gymnasium at Oak Harbor Elementary currently. This one is primarily funded with local money, and it does qualify, that auditorium does qualify for $3.5 million of state assistance. Yes, ma'am?
That building, I believe underneath has, it's the center for all the fiber and stuff like that, so that will still stay there. I think it used to be where the lockers were for the old gym that was there. Is that still going to stay?
Right, yeah, it's going to stay. Yeah, it's a natural hub where all the fiber optics that serve the district comes in from the K-12 network. This is a co-op transportation center. The reason we call it co-op is we provide support for Coopville School District, and with that we qualify for about a 50% match in construction. This is probably one of our oldest buildings on campus. The previous one, as you know, it fell after a heavy snowstorm. The roof came crashing down on the old one. It's very very poor construction, the existing one. This will allow our bus drivers to have places to not only get their buses worked on by the mechanics, but also a place for training and lockers. And a lot of our bus drivers will train while they're waiting between shifts, the AM and PM run. This one is funded 50% from the state and 50% from the local taxpayers. And it's going to be built on Regatta at the old OVE site. This is the fifth one we've talked about. If you look at the cost of construction, we're estimating and budgeting for our local bond $184 million. That's what we're asking our taxpayers to pay. If approved, that dollar amount can't go up, can't go down. We have to stay within budget, regardless of what assessment comes in or if there's more property that's added to the assessment roll. That 184 is constant, it can't change. The other three stars that you see right there are dollars that are available to the school district in our community from other sources, including the Department of Defense, the cooperative transportation that I mentioned, and also the state school construction fund, or the timber dollars as they call them. All four projects are funding sources together equals about $323 million. One way to look at that is for every dollar our community is willing to support these measures, we'll get 75 additional cents from those other outside sources. Another way to look at this, there we go, is just by the dollar amount. 183.6 million local, transportation of 22.7 million, Department of Defense 107 million, and state construction approximately 10.5 million. The Department of Defense, it's an application process that school districts have to go through. They award it individually by site. There were 22 applications nationwide. Oak Harbor got 2 of the 22. In order to get those resources, our community has to build the building up front and submit reimbursement. We follow the military's requirements and the Navy's building codes and their strict adherence. And so once the buildings get built, we actually then start getting reimbursed for that up to the 80% of the project value. That funding has already been awarded. We're going through the process. The next step in the process is getting the community support for their 20%. And if you look at the percentages, you'll see that 57% would be local and 43% would be from outside sources. That's the dollar for additional 75 cents from outside sources. And that's how it looks in those 3 areas. To be eligible for state match and DOD, we have to have a local commitment. Bonds are tough. They require a supermajority. So it's going to take, for every 10 votes, we need 6 yeses. And the voters approved the dollar amount, even though we try to give them the tax rate so they can see, make smart decisions. It's the dollar amount that the voters are approving. It does require a validation of 40% of the last November election, which in our case this year is 3,722 votes. But who's counting? Bonds are different than levies. You can't remodel a building without having a lot of money up front. Builders and people that do this kind of work need to pay their payroll, their staff. So you need to be able to finance it in a way that keeps the payroll going for your builders. Another good way to look at it are bonds for building and levies are for learning. This bond cannot be used for the day-to-day operation of the school district. It can't be used for extra nurses or for anything that's used in the normal operation of the school day. It's interesting, as assessment properties increase, property owners' tax rates will drop because the number doesn't change. It's a mathematical formula. The 184 that we're asking for is a fixed number, and as the assessed value goes up and down, people's percentage of that assessed amount will mostly they'll stay the same, and as more property gets added to the equation, then people's individual tax rates not only will drop, but their dollars that generated from those tax rates will drop too as well. I mentioned before the previous bond was completed on time and on budget. You only have to look at our sites and walk through them to realize that they're pretty old. Oak Harbor Elementary was built in FDR age, really in the Great Depression era. They have used their prime between lighting upgrades, seismic upgrades, heating and ventilating. It's time to really take a good look. And you can't imagine, school. You can go through a home and have, a family, and you have 5 people maybe going in and out of the door. When you look at a school and you have 500 or 600 kids every day, 506 times that twice a day in and out of the front door of the building can have a tremendous impact on the condition of a school district. Interest rates are trending downward, what we're told, pardon me. What we're told by our bond counsel is they appears to be bottomed out, and they're right now trending at the bottom and starting. They don't know are they going to go up or are they going to maintain, but they are. It's now a good time to buy bonds. The dollar amount is constant and the years are constant. It's going to be the interest rate really in the end that would drive the tax rate for our community. We've tried to make sure, even though we're not required, they're not voting on the tax rate. We felt it important to make sure that our community knows the tax rates. You can see that over time from 2015 to 2025, it's been up and it's been down. We are at the tail end of paying off our existing bond. These figures were generated with estimates. As you may or may not know, school districts have to approve a measure for the bond by December 10th. Our board did it October 25th. And then the actual true assessments for 2022 actually come out after the first of the year. So we're using best guesses that the state or the county assessor has given us. Good news is that we're finding that that number here is actually lower, which we think we're working with bond counsel right now that actually 189 will also be lower too as well. We're looking forward to getting those figures from our bond agent to see what that will drive. Some key takeaways, a lot of the work has been already done. Most districts have to have the money from the bond in order to generate these type of activities. So I must say that they've done a great job long before I came here in order to get ready for this particular measure. People that are new to Oak Harbor, or if they've moved recently, a good way to check to see if they're registered to vote is to go to votewad.gov and just see where your ballot's going. They're first-class mail, so a lot of times they aren't forwarded. So we've heard from a number of people that ballots haven't been, they haven't received their ballots, so it's a good way to check to make sure that their ballots are there. And although we can't tell them how to vote, we can certainly encourage them to be registered and to vote. I have a short little video, and that kind of concludes my presentation. I appreciate your patience. And with that, I'll let the technology man take over.
Hey, Oak Harbor voters, did you know that the community has an important election coming up? On February 8th, voters will be asked to approve a bond package that includes 4 new schools and a transportation center. But wait, didn't we just pass an election?
Yep, in 2021, voters approved a levy to pay for things like athletics, nurses, librarians, and much more.
Yeah, but a bond is different. To help me remember the difference, I like to say bonds are for building and levies are for learning. One more difference is that bonds require a supermajority for 60% to be approved.
The last time we voted on a bond was in 2006. I wasn't even born then. Those bonds built Oak Harbor High School and Wildcat Memorial Stadium, which were completed on time and on budget.
The best part is those bonds will be paid off this year, making this a replacement bond and not a new tax.
Currently, our elementary schools are overcrowded. We have 40 portable classrooms in the district because our aging schools are too small.
Oak Harbor Elementary was built in 1934 when FDR was president. That's really old.
Schools have changed since then. New schools have larger classrooms, gymnasiums that don't double as cafeterias, better playgrounds, modern safety and security systems, updated technology, better HVAC systems, and are built for today's learning.
Woohoo! Building schools can be expensive, which is why Oak Harbor Public Schools worked hard to pay for their portion of the project. Thanks to the Department of Defense, like the Navy and the state, they're going to pay for 43% of this bond project.
Wow!
However, this funding is only available if voters approve the measure, but we have good news for taxpayers. The estimated tax rate will be $1.89 per $1,000 of assessed property value, which is 4 cents cheaper than the bond rate in 2015.
We have some of the best teachers in the state. Imagine what great teachers can do in great spaces.
Well, that's all we have for you. Only thing left to do is turn in your ballot by February 8th.
This message is read by students from Oak Harbor Public Schools.
Woohoo!
And with that concludes my presentation. Woo!
Yes. Thank you, Karst. Nice job. Now I know where you learned that bonds are for building and Levies are for learning.
There you go.
Yeah. Any questions, council? Okay. So they've still got time to vote. Those
do.
that have not voted need to get out and vote,
Yep.
right?
Got the ballot box right outside.
That's exactly right. Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to section 3 of our agenda, which is our citizen comment period. Citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. Citizens may also comment on corresponding agenda items. In this hybrid meeting format, citizens can attend and give comment in person or via the online comment form at www.oakharbor.org/public comment or mayor's comment box online on the city website via the search box under How Do I, which is under the second column labeled Contact the City. Or you can email the city clerk, jlindsay@oakharbor.org. You need to do that prior to 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Finally, you could call for public comment, number 360-279-4571 to leave a voicemail. You need to do this within certain times, so let us know if you're interested in comments. We did receive one comment from a city employee since our last meeting, and I think that's on the screen here, and I believe that was sent out to you in your packets. We also received one comment from the public, which is also appearing on the screen. Okay, so with that, are there any members of the public present who wish to speak? If so, the clerk could call your name. Do we have a?
Yes, Mayor. Barbara Arms would like to speak.
Okay,
It's me
welcome, Barbara.
again I'm Barbara Arms. I live at 351 Northeast Noon Loop in Oak Harbor. It's me again with the Happy City Water thing again. Now, I have an interesting thing. Why did the rate of my can go up? Now, it was only a few dollars, but did we get an improvement on that can? Why didn't it stay the same? I know it wasn't much. And I know the sewer went up, but we keep raising this. We're building more buildings, we're putting more apartments, more houses. Why aren't the people that are coming online now, why don't they bear the better cost? And why don't the people that have been here freeze it just for 6 months or so? Let's catch up. And why don't the people that are actually coming on board now pay the increase instead of expecting us to continue to pay the increase? So for 2 people that are elderly on a fixed income, we went in 1 month from $184 to $195. So you figure that out, that's $120 a year, which may not sound much, but you know it's gonna go up. And I'm tired of seeing going up. I know we have to pay for the sewer, I got it. But you know, we need to figure out some other way, and we need to look at something so that people aren't overly burdened. Because if you have a family, there's no way it's gonna be $195 a month. So just something to think about and look at, and I think we need to think outside the box to help people in all avenues of what we're doing for the city, and not just give a yes to it and leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other? Okay, and if you didn't sign up but would still like to speak, we're open to that too, certainly, so thank you, and I know that I saw some notes being taken here, so we'll be working on this. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll go on to our consent agenda. Staff has presented the listed consent agenda items, all of which were included in the meeting packet. Any questions or changes to those? Not seeing any. The consent agenda is approved as presented. So with that, then we'll go to the next section, 5A, Mayor's comments. The Oak Harbor Main Street Association will host Fidelgo Friday on February 11th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. They're inviting all citizens, whether you live in Oak Harbor or not, to come walk, shop, and dine at your favorite Fidelgo Avenue and Dock Street merchants. So that's Friday, February 11th. Okay. Council retreat. We're tentatively looking at late March for the council retreat, pending confirmation of a facilitator, and then finding the right location. We appreciate the input we've received from members of council. We've been in touch with several recommended facilitators, some of whom are just not doing in-person facilitations at this time. Once we have a facilitator on board, we'll be able to talk more definitely about actual dates based on everyone's availability and the agenda. So having said that, boards and commissions openings, when an opening on a city board or commission occurs, as mayor, I usually make the appointment recommendations to city council. We are putting a policy in place to ensure all openings are managed the same way. This includes advertisement of openings, nominating individuals, receipt of applications, and selection of new members. This is at the least a 2-week process prior to the presentation of an appointee to council. So more to come on that, I believe. The Pentagon trip. For many years, the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, along with 1 or 2 council members, have traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with officials and put forth our legislative priorities. Due to COVID-19 in 2021, the Pentagon did not host visitors, and therefore no trip was taken. We have been in frequent contact with the Pentagon to determine whether there will be an opportunity to travel there this year. At this point, the Pentagon officials are allowing attendance in smaller proportions due to COVID-19 restrictions. With this in mind, I am suggesting that myself and Mayor Pro Tem attend on behalf of the city. I have heard from Anacortes Mayor Matt Miller, a former executive officer at NAS Whidbey, that he is interested in and available to attend also. So at this point, that's our plan, if we can get back there, and we'll know as soon as we get a little closer to that date. Website update. As approved by the council, the city will soon be updating its website. We would love to have a volunteer from council to work on the team creating our new website. So looking for a volunteer, let us know, please, if you're available to do that. Council member service, boards and committees. Members of our council are named to and serve on 8 vital boards and committees. My appointees from council are as follows. The Island Transit Public Transportation Benefit Authority Board of Directors, Mayor Pro Tem Munns. Mayor Pro Tem has kindly served in that spot now for a while, and she'll be again doing that for us this year. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The Joint Administration Board, Tourism, Island County, Councilmember Wiesner, and we're going to add an alternate for him, and that'll be Councilmember Evans. The Northwest Clean Air Association Board of Directors, Councilmember Heisen. The ARPA Ad Hoc Committee, we have 3 members of council that serve there. Councilmember Heisen, Wiesner, and Hoffmeyer. We also have an investment committee, City of Oak Harbor, and we've asked for council members Stuckey and Councilmember Evans to serve on the investment committee. Law Enforcement Officer and Firefighter Disability Board, the City of Oak Harbor council members, we have 2 council members that will serve in that, on that board, and that is council members Hoffmeyer and Councilor Heisen. And then the Lodging Tax Advisory, LTAC, City of Oak Harbor. For that, we have Councilmember Stuckey. And then the Park Board, City of Oak Harbor. And that, for that spot, we have Councilmember Wiesner. So I thank you for your...
Councilmember Heisen has her hand raised, Mayor.
Oh, okay. Councilor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to volunteer for the website committee. I didn't know if you meant to get back to you right now or later, but I would be happy to do that if you need somebody. Thanks.
You know, I think we just filled that, didn't we? Thank you, Councilor Heisen. We appreciate that very much. You've got it. Good.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. So any comments from council about these various committees and boards? Any questions or, yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. When a new council member is selected, is there a board that they might fit on so that they can start to get in the process of being integrated?
Yes, there,
Okay,
but yeah,
thank you.
yeah, we're certainly going to try to make that happen. Thank you, though. So this part I didn't check with you, Julie, on very carefully. If it is needed, we can ask for a motion and a second to approve this. Help me out on this, will you?
Yes, Mayor, that is at the will of yourself and the council. It's not necessary to have that approved. These are your appointments.
Okay. Any feelings one way or the other? If not, we'll move ahead. Okay, move ahead as stated. That perhaps could give us a little flexibility too with our new counselor coming on before long. Good. Thank you for your for working with us there. So now we'll turn to the council for any council comments. Anybody? Councilor Hoffmeyer?
Yeah, you know, several of us ran a campaign recently, and I think we all had a lot of correspondence with members of the community. You know, I myself knocked on 7,300 doors. A lot of residents answered the knock, and you know, the citizen comment that we received tonight with regards to the utility bill, I heard it over and over, thousands of times. You know, it was mentioned that Barbara mentioned that her bill went up from $184 a month to $195 a month. Mine did too. Something has to be done. If you look at the median income in Oak Harbor, we're talking roughly 5% of somebody's income just to flush the toilet and have the garbage hauled off it. When is it enough? I think when the citizens hear that we're doing a rate study, or a rate feasibility study, I think the comment that I usually hear is, I've got your study right here. I can only speak for myself. I won't support any rate increases over the next 4 years, and I will fervently work towards those rates being stabilized. So to everybody out there, we hear you. We are working towards it. Government does take time. It can move at a glacial pace, but this is something we have to move fairly quick on. And I think every council member sitting here realizes that. So rest assured, we hear you, and thank you for that comment.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think it's dear to all the council hearts and the staff. The problem is we might need to have our legal person explain, because we cannot gift. Whatever it is exactly what there isn't really, I don't even think, maybe a fourth of an inch wiggle room. And that's what's heartbreaking, when our tipping fees just for the trash that goes down to island disposal goes up 200%. It has to be passed on. I mean, we were caught off by surprise. So it's a delicate balance. I hear you, Ms. Arms, and it's, trust me, I hate writing out that bill too. So I just, it's a fine line, and we can't afford to be fined by the state. So we need an education, I think, on that somehow, Mayor, so that everybody, and have it open so that the public could also listen in and know about it. But, you know, we've agonized over this. When we first got on, there's never, ever been a rate study for the water bill or the trash, ever. And we found out that we were living in La La Land, and probably should have been fined for not keeping up. So it's just, it is hard, and I'm just hoping that, I'm not doing it because I want to, but I've got to stay within the law, so.
If I could say something, you know, the county doesn't have recycle, so why do we have recycle?
So we're not, yeah, we're
No,
not,
I know.
yeah, we're not in discussion at this point, but yes. Were you finished?
Yes, sir.
Mayor? Okay, yes. Yes.
Mayor, would it be okay to ask a question of city administrator or the finance director?
Sure, sure.
Okay. Blaine, would you like me to ask you or David?
David, I don't believe is here, so
Okay.
I'll do my best to field it.
I will ask you. I know that he knows the answer, and I think you may. When you're looking at some of these enterprise funds, like the wastewater treatment plant, for instance, does user fees have to cover 100% of those costs, or do user fees have to just cover a majority of those costs? And the question would be, could the general fund backfill on some of that legally?
Yes, it can legally, and we moved $400,000 from the general fund to prevent or minimize the increase in the sewer. That was a recommendation of the mayor, and we did that in the last rate increase. And then we do have ARPA funds. And so now with you being on the committee, we can certainly do ARPA fund for upcoming capital projects and then minimize future rate increases. So those are opportunities. We have, I think, 5.6 million. I think we spent, or 6.6 million. I'll probably get it wrong. I'm always wrong when I do this. So David's not here, but I guess we have, you know, millions of dollars left to spend, and certainly the ARPA subcommittee is looking at that potential there. So certainly when we did the rates last time, we had capital projects in there. And if we use ARPA funding, we can get those capital projects done without having to be put into the rate.
So I think the time for public comment would be right, but don't pick at City Hall. There is wiggle room.
Thank you, Mr. Huff. Yes. Oh, great, good. Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, thanks, Councilmember Hoffmeyer, for those questions. And that was one of the things I was going to jump in and state. We did transfer a pretty sizable amount of money out of the general fund in order to help mitigate some of this. And we are talking and have been talking on the ARPA committee, and felt it appropriate to wait until the election to bring on that other member on the ARPA committee before making any decisions about using some of those funds to help mitigate this expense. So it is absolutely 100% at the forefront. Certainly has been in my mind, and I think I've had conversations with several staff members. I also want to point out that there's two sides to that equation, right? There's the income side, which is what we're looking at right now, how to deal with the income side and make that balance. But there's also the expense side, and we are in the process of looking for a new public works director, and I'm sure that staff and the council are going to challenge that public works director as they come in to examine some of the costs associated with those enterprise funds. A lot of costs. We kind of, as we put on that new sewage treatment plant, right, we've learned of some costs involved with that. And I think now that we've got a little bit of time under our belt, I mean, we may be able to go back, revisit some of those ongoing costs and see whether or not they were really one-time associated with the startup of the plant, or whether they're things that really do need to be funded long-term. So I just want to remind everybody, there's two sides of that coin. We've talked a little bit now about the income side of it, and what our thoughts are and what we're trying to do there. But I just want to make sure everybody also is focused that cost is the other side of that, and I'm sure that we're going to continue to take a strong look at that and do everything we can to minimize the cost so that we don't have to make severe adjustments on the income side. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wiesner. Any other council comments? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on then to, I think we'll go all the way down to other items for consideration. And that is actually the final item on our agenda this evening is number 9A, Notice of Intention to Commence Proceedings. You're going to have to help me with, is it Evelyn and Quintero? Annexation, and I believe for that we have either or both our Development Services Director David Kuhl or our Senior Planner Kat Kamak, or both. Looks like Kat's up. Welcome, Kat.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, Kat Kamak, Senior Planner. I'll do a short presentation on this annexation request. We discussed this at the City Council workshop last week. So I'll do a quick recap with a short presentation for the meeting. I just want to inform City Council that we do have, or at least we did have, Mr. Rory Evelyn on the, we do have, so I see him on the, we do have Rory Evelyn here. So after my presentation, you can open a discussion with Mr. Rory Evelyn on this annexation. So with that, I'll go to a share screen so that I can share my presentation. All right. So I hope council can see that. So this is an annexation request, as the mayor mentioned, for a single-family residential lot. The applicant is Rory Evelyn and Marcela Quintero. The property is located on Laurelland Drive. On this map, as you can see, there is the city limits, the yellow line, and the property for annexation is adjacent to the city limits. So with annexation, I'm sorry, was there a question? Oh, okay, I'll continue. Thought I heard a noise. So for annexations, the decision to annex is at the city council discretion. This is a choice that a city council can make. And if the council chooses to annex, then you can do a couple things. You can accept the annexation as proposed. We'll go into it a little bit more on that option. Or you can geographically modify the area. Along with the decision to proceed with annexation, you also have to require adoption of zoning and for the property to share in all the city indebtedness. If the city council chooses not to pursue the annexation, this is not similar to other applications. There's no right to appeal because this is very legislative in nature. Geographically modifying the area. So you have several options here in terms of considering this annexation. And I'll switch over to a map in a bit to show some of the options, but just the three options are to annex as proposed. This council can consider adding properties along Laurelland Lane, and or to consider even the entire Hillcrest Water District. And I think we talked a little bit about that at the workshop on these options. I will share some maps with you just to get you more familiar with what we're looking at in terms of the lay of the land. So the property for annexation is right over here, and this is Roland Lane, and you can see the contours on this map. And so the crest of the high point on Lowland Lane is right over here, after which it starts to drop off all the way down to Swantown Road here. So the terrain is not necessarily in favor of utility extensions, therefore it makes it a little challenging for the applicant to connect to sewer. I can show you, so this is Google Maps. The applicant's property is right here. The city limits go along here. This is the Marin Woods subdivisions being currently developed. And if you look at the street view, you can see how Lowland Lane starts to dip down. And so sewer connection, the closest manhole is over here at Putman Drive, right where the manhole is. And so it's quite a bit of a connection from there to over here for the property. So I'll go back to my presentation. So in consideration of whether to access property, you can look at whether you want to include properties along Lowland. So this is my apologies, I'll go to that one. So this is the applicant's property. All of these properties can plan together to have a system that flows down to Swanton Avenue. And by the way, just want to mention, this entire Hillcrest area has had septic system failures and things in the past. They have water quality issues and so on. So there are probably several properties in this area that could likely benefit from a sewer connection. However, it is a fairly large area, and the terrain slopes to a low point down in Fairway Lane. So the sewer plan indicates a forced a pump station down here at Fairway Lane that collects all the sewers, the waste from all of these lots and funnels it down here, and then gets it back to the plant. So that is the overall system that needs to be built in order to serve this entire area. So that's just a side note. So so those are some of the options that's available to City Council while considering this annexation in expanding this geographically modifying the area. In terms of the individual property and its annexation, so I have a graphic here. This is the Marin Woods subdivision that's being proposed and is under construction. This is the city, and this is the applicant's lot where my mouse is. And if their desire is to connect to the sewer on Putnam Drive and to use this lot potentially to have the system connect here. However, you can see the challenges here. This is an excerpt from the civil plans. The sewer, I believe, is already constructed. This is the manhole that ends there. The sewer drains west and then south. So if the applicant were to connect to the system via Putnam, then they would have to talk to the Marin subdivision to see how they can get an easement to connect. And even if they can get an easement, it's really challenging because of this water line. So this is the city water line that runs through the street, and that's the connection that will be made. And it's a requirement that sewer lines should have a 10-foot separation from a water line. And so trying to get that sewer connection from here is also challenging if you look at the details of it. So on the surface, this appears like it's contiguous and can be easily served, but if you could dive into the details, there are some challenges. It's not impossible, however, you have to get creative in terms of the design, in terms of how you want to connect to that system. And you'd have to get easements and so on. So that is the property level detail challenges. So that is regarding the annexation of that lot. As mentioned earlier, the action to move ahead with annexation would require consideration of zoning. This property would be low-density residential, will come in as a single-family residential lot, and will stay that way. And of course, the indebtedness for sharing in all future existing and future bonds that's comes with the annexation. So what you have tonight is you have the applicant here, and the RCWs say that we have to arrange a meeting when they request for annexation within 60 days to talk to them about annexation. So that's what this meeting is for. So once you have a discussion with the applicant, you can decide on what you want to do with the annexation. I presented the options here to go with an individual property as they have requested, or to geographically modify the area. So those are the options for the council. With that, I will turn it back over to you, Mayor, and also mention that we do have Mr. Rory Evelyn in the meeting, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, CAC. I see Mr. Olborn's got his hand up, so I'm going to turn to him first.
Yeah, CAC, if you can go back to that map of Marin Woods, I wanted to add a little bit more here for clarification for council in the connection. I think we want to follow the mayor's kind of theme here of how do we get to
I
yes.
think the mic is off at the council chambers.
Okay, trying to get the map back. Can you get that map back that has that small section with the sewer of Marin Woods and his property, the applicant's property, and bring that up, and I can kind of add to it a little bit. So, yeah, so this would really only, if there was the connection through the property, I think the city would only want to service that one individual. So if the individual annexed into the city, I think the preference of staff is that the individual then therefore can negotiate with the Marin Woods to run a private line just for his residents through and connect there on Putman Drive. So that would be a private extension just for that particular one, and it's probably the best one. I think we talked about trying to bring the whole lowland area in, and I think there's some complexity here. And then if you could go ahead and bring up the map of the area, it's kind of relevant. We did get recently an annexation request for two properties that are on the other side on Swantown there, that little triangle piece of property, and then a property across the street there. So
that's hard to, it's hard to see lot lines
yeah,
on that map.
He has the lot line maps. He can bring that up too. CAC is pretty good at this. So, so if you can zoom in, you have the lot lines in there. It's that little triangle. Yeah, there it is. That triangle there and the one across the street. Those are coming up on the agenda. They just barely came in on this week, so we didn't have time. So we've got two other applicants that are wanting to hook up possibly to sewer and annex it. And just for clarification, we could run city water outside the UGA. We don't run sewer outside the UDA. So therefore, if they want sewer, they need to annex into the city. So So that's consideration too. It's a lot to take on the whole area here, so that's kind of my thing. Let's just look at it all big, but it's a lot to take on, but it does show the need. I think we're probably going to inch into Hillcrest a lot at a time, because now if he annexes in, the neighbor across the street can annex in. It allows other people, and then we'll just kind of take it in. And like we mentioned, I think according to some of the people in engineering, other people that weren't contiguous from the city have shown interest in the past of annexing in. I think long-term, this property the whole area is going to migrate into the city, I think, for stable water and stable sewer capacity is going to migrate in. If we do annex in the one property, the one thing that staff recommends the council do is that the applicant certainly can negotiate with Marin Woods, but if he's not able to do that on a private sewer line through the back, then if the city ever put water and sewer in the roadway, then we would want the consent to that the applicant would hook up, and so that we would have a sewer customer there if we ever ran it on Lowland. And I think it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we run it on it may be 20 years, it might be 30, but it'll happen at some point. I believe the need will be there. And when I was talking about the other to the south, the other two houses that are annexing coming in, I think it's going to start a discussion here of this whole area.
So I, for one, will need a little bit more clarity. We obviously have one. We know who that is. Did I just hear you say that we've had two more come in?
Yes,
So do we have three applications now?
we have 3 applications.
So are we required to take those 3 together?
No, and we have the 60-day clock running for this one, so we can't necessarily do them concurrently.
Okay.
And that one just came in after we started the discussion here, so that will come back to council. It's kind of starting that, going back to CAC's options of the options, it kind of starts the whole thing. If we want to talk about it, we could still just do it in one and take it in increments. There's a lot to take on, and that would probably be my recommendation, is just to take them in there. But I'm just kind of bringing the history here and giving you the latest that is even if we do take in this one applicant here, I think there's going to be continue to be more and more annexations in that area as people are going to annex in to connect to our sewer, because it's probably cheaper to connect to our sewer than it is to recondition. And a lot of those half-acre lots just don't have room to put in, and I think that was the applicant. So
we don't have an emergency
no,
at
absolutely
this
not.
point in time?
No.
Okay. And there would be nothing really to keep this applicant from going to the Marin group to try to work out at least some agreement?
Yeah, he just has to annex into the city in order to get sewer.
And I
So
do
if he
understand
annex
that.
into the city, if we annex him in, then he can negotiate with the Marin Woods, and now's a good time to do it while the houses are not built.
But it also, he doesn't want to come into the city if he can't get sewer and water. Wouldn't that be, I mean, this has to be done together.
Well, if he can't negotiate, the advantage he has of being in the city is if we ever run it, he can already be connected. And he's not very far from the sewer where it is now. So if it does fail, if he can't get it through Marin Woods, he's pretty close to get it on Lowland.
Okay,
So he has the option there. So it does give him options either way by being in the city.
So I'm going to turn this to council. I didn't realize we had other applicants. I do understand the 60-day clock, and it sounds like perhaps somebody will ask. If they don't, I'm still curious. Does this application want to move ahead if there's not an agreement for sewer with Marin?
You have the applicant
As the
here.
property owner, I'd like to answer that question. I have already negotiated with Marin. The property, the easement is actually in draft form with the county on the Marin property as is. And the answer is, even if we cannot go off the back of the property, yes, we will ask the annexed.
You guys understand that? Okay. So they want to be annexed? Okay, okay.
Yes.
Okay, other council questions? Yes, Councilor Stuckey.
Two questions, one for staff, one for the homeowner. For staff, just so I understand, because it's been new to me, the homeowner pays all of the costs associated with hooking up to sewer and water and such. There's no cost to the city. Is that correct?
Pretty much, yes.
Pretty much.
There's a connection fee, and that's the practice, yes.
Okay. And then my question for the homeowner, have you approached any of your neighbors about possible annexation, or has that conversation not come up?
The only neighbor we have approached is Marin Woods. As part of their annexation, we began this discussion.
Gotcha. Okay. I do like the idea of, I mean, there's no reason not to allow one property, but I do like the idea of other properties. I think to put that on the homeowner to say, hey, go to your neighbors and try to convince them to come to the city is a little bit of a tough push. I think it might be a good idea for a staff member to assist with that, if that's of an interest. I mean, I don't know if it's a door-to-door sort of a thing, but maybe their neighbors should know about the options as well. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand that question. I don't think that's a normal staff request. So we generally are not going to be going door to door. I don't believe. Isn't that correct?
No, we were not planning on it, so,
Yeah.
and CAC wants to kind of,
I mean, having
Get some
information available, though, I think Mr. Stuckey, I think to his point, we certainly want to have that. And it also makes sense to me to, if we think we're going to be taking on more of Hillcrest, and I believe that we will be, then maybe we do want to be looking at a plan to do that. They
yeah,
have a- they
and
have
I
their
think
own
we've
water
already,
system, yes.
yeah,
Okay.
I believe as was mentioned in CAC's report, we've already kind of done some study on that and made sure we have the capacity for that in the future. So we've already done initial plans, but it's a huge hurdle. I mean, there's quite a lot of cost here. If we do the annexation of this individual through, it's basically only going to allow that one individual. If other people want to approach, that are next to him want to approach Marin Woods and try to do the same thing, now's the opportunity for them to do it.
So Julie,
Councilmember
the one-
Wiesner has his hand raised.
okay, Councilor Wiesner?
Thank you, Mayor. And in CAC, if you've got something to say, go ahead and jump in real quick, like, before I start my comments.
That's all right. I'll wait till the end. That's okay. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. So, Mr. Oborn, I think now would be an opportune time, kind of off subject, but on subject, to discuss the couple of options you laid out there. And one of the options that's not laid out there is connecting to the city sewer outside the city sewer, outside the city limits. And I know that's an ordinance we have on our books that does not allow that, but I guess I've never gotten the real answer as to whether that's a state mandate, is that a GMA mandate, or is that a self-imposed mandate for us not to serve sewer to properties outside city limits?
That's an excellent question, and I think we have a city attorney here that
You know-
might be able to help me with that.
Yeah, I think that's a question we're going to have to.
We could do some
spend
more
time
research on it.
Yeah, our city, Hillary's not with us this evening, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, you get it, and that's something I would like to research. I'd like to make sure that we're providing all the options that are
certainly agree.
available out there, right? And you know, we've discussed this item before, and I don't know that we've really ever dug into it. But let's face it, I guess I'm trying to think ahead. This is not an emergency connection here, but what if we were in a situation where it was an emergency connection? And in order to make the connection, we were going to create an island. And we know all the problems creating an island has. You know, fortunately, this particular property, you know, borders the city on two sides. But imagine if we were talking about a property that, you know, only bordered the city on one side, and we create this island, and you know, there's all sorts of logistical issues with that. Not only for us to service the utilities of that island, but you know, also for ICOM and emergency dispatch. You know, I most recently had a situation where we were calling ICOM to dispatch to a property, and there was something going on, and there was a lot of confusion about whether the property was in the city limits or not. And then, in the end, I ended up with a city police officer showing up, but we were in the county. So you can imagine the confusion that caused. So I guess I want to get ahead of the curve. If the only options we have for these properties in Hillcrest is to annex them one by one, right? If we do find ourselves in an emergency situation, we're going to be, creating a lot of little islands. And so I just want to pursue that concept a little bit. Thanks.
Okay, I knew that. I just didn't want to put that on her. She doesn't know our code as well as Hillary, and I think that's going to take some study to come up with that answer. But yes, Councilor Hoffmeyer.
So for an entire area like Hillcrest to be annexed in, that takes a 50% plus one vote? Is that a majority vote?
I bet you our attorney probably knows that's on the line that's covering from Hillary. I believe it's 60, but I'd rather not speculate, and she might know that off the top of her head.
That's the one I don't know off the top of my head. I think you're right, it is 60. And regarding your previous question, generally in all my cities, as long as the property is in the urban growth area, you can provide utility service as opposed to annexing. But I'll follow up with Hillary and provide that to you in writing.
Thank you.
And I believe our practice is we run water outside of, in the UGA, but we've had other people approach us that were contiguous, and we just told them we can't extend sewer to them, but that could be our own past practice and not necessary ordinance. So we can do some research on that. Because I do know that we've turned down people and told them, because you're not contiguous, you can't, we're not going to run your sewer.
So super majority, so even tougher. So there's at least 4 lots in Hillcrest that want to annex, because I happen to know of another one. Super majority can be tough, so maybe we don't want to give away that one yes vote just yet. So it does sound like some more research is needed, but like you said, like staff said, there's a 60-day clock ticking. So I don't know what type of timeline we would be on there.
So I guess my question, can we start the clock and get the consent and not figure out which area we need CAC? Can we kind of leave it open?
We can. So one of the things from a planning perspective, if I were to look at it, one of the things we would want to consider is, upon annexation, how are we as a city going to serve them? So that is going to require infrastructure. It's going to require a project to be in the CIP. Therefore, you can say that you have a project plan to serve them. So annexation doesn't automatically extend the sewer, right? We have to build up to providing service to this area. So it's a little more complex than just going out and getting the area. We have to be able to serve them. So there may be some benefit in bringing them one by one in terms of amassing lots here that will demand the service with which you can then provide a project in the CIP, and it takes 6 years usually to fund these projects and get built. So if you, as a city council or as a city, to propose annexing Hillcrest, would be good to meet them halfway where we have some plans. And that's just from a planning perspective, just to be prepared to serve the areas that we annex.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, we're just voting to move it forward for more investigation. So it doesn't have to be a hard and fast. It's like, yes, we like their idea. They've already told us that they want to annex whether or not they can connect. So, but I know I have been on council, and one of the years, someone in an off spot They would not be allowed to live in their house unless they hooked up to city sewer, and that was an emergency. If they've already had some problems already, let's not make them an emergency. They're asking, they're willing, and even if they can't connect through Marion Woods, this tonight is just say by accepting a proposed intent to annex at this stage, the council is not committing itself to ultimately annexing the territory. We're just saying, yeah, this looks good, let's look into it. So let's not make this harder than it is tonight. We don't need to know all the answers. Let's just move it forward and say, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. And I just assume they don't become an emergency condition, which is much harder to deal with to have people be able to stay in their house. So.
Any other input or questions? I'm sorry? Okay. Councilor Wiesner.
So, thank you, Mayor, and thanks for hanging with me here, guys. I would think, I agree with Mayor Pro Tem. This is just the first step, but I would certainly think we'd want to understand all the options we have out there before making that final decision. I think we owe that to the property owners. If there is, we've talked about this serving properties in the UGA before, and that issue is going to continue to come up, right? But I think we need to examine that issue. I also tend to agree with CAC a little bit that, if we piecemeal this, if we know what our long-term plan is, but we piecemeal this, we're probably going to be going back a few years from now going, what did we do to ourselves? Understanding, like, for example, CAC pointed out the 10-foot separation between water and sewer lines, or that has to be a 4-foot vertical separation, right? And so now you're talking about either burying lines very, very deep or routing lines in such a way that they're going around other lines. And, we could be creating something that's not serviceable, I guess, in the future. And of course, it becomes the city's issue to service it once that connection's made out there in the street. So, I certainly don't want, I agree with Mayor Pro Tem, I certainly don't want to block these people from moving the steps forward. I know we've moved very, very slowly, but you also understand we're moving cautiously on all parties' parts, including yours. If there's options you guys haven't been given to date, we want to make sure that you have those options in front of you if they are available. Okay, so I'm certainly okay with taking the next steps forward in this, understanding we still have some questions we all probably want answered, and that obviously this is sparking a bigger conversation than what you guys are involved in, and I'm not going to try to wrap you up into that, right? But at the same time, it's the intelligent way for us to do this, right? To protect both you folks as well as the city. So. I'm all forward with taking the next step forward, but again, I guess I just want to caution that we still got some answers to get before there's some more steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wiesner. I know Mayor Pro Tem's got another bit, but I forgot to ask Julie. We've gotten no input from the public on this, have we?
That's correct, Mayor. No input from the public.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make that of record. So, Mayor Pro Tem?
It doesn't ask for a motion tonight. I think it's just kind of a head nod. I urge that we just keep moving this forward. I'll give an answer. I live on Waterloo. And when we bought the house in August of '98, there's no sewer, but there's water. But they were told by city staff at that time before we bought the house that within 10 years they'd be on sewer. Guess what year it is now? And there is no sewer line. So just because they're annexed in and we got water, mainly I think it was for the fire flow. There's a fire hydrant up on some, I think it's county property, but it's up towards the county line or in the county line. There's a fire hydrant there that's not, but it was to keep the water so they could flush it and they keep it fresh and stuff. So let's just move it forward. Let's not beat the cow dead. Let's just move it forward and find out what our answers are as they come, okay?
So is it true we're not looking for any kind of a motion for that, right? Is that right, CAC? There's no request for a motion to move this forward?
Well, it would be good to clarify whether we want to move ahead with the annexation as requested with just a single property, or is the council going to modify? That decision is not clear yet, so we'll need to have a motion that would state the council's desire for that.
So you're asking for that motion tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. CAC, it was not in our packet tonight. It just says determine annexation direction. It did not ask for motion. I move that the council move the investigation for a future annexation forward at this time.
I'll second that for discussion.
Okay, so we've got a motion, and I know Julie is writing it down to move the action forward.
To move investigation for a future annexation forward.
Does that motion need to specify whether it's applied to just this parcel?
CAC, help us out here.
Sorry, since it was within the council's discussion, I didn't want to, yes, it would be good to specify whether it's just for this property or for a larger area, because that's a key decision at this meeting. So the decision is to either move ahead with just this property or geographically modify the area, accept the zoning, and the city's indebtedness. Those are the three things that the city council decides on tonight.
So we have a motion and a second right now, and so we're going to need to either withdraw or amend the motion to add. Does council?
I'll amend it with the property.
Okay.
Just this property. Do I need to give out the whole number? It's S768500010110. Address 2446 Lowlander Lane.
So the amendment would be to add the parcel number of the property, specific property. And that's amended, a suggested amendment.
And I'll second that amendment.
So we have a motion, and then we've got an amendment to add the parcel number for this specific property to the original motion. So first, we'll vote on the amendment to the motion. Any questions about that?
Oh, Councilmember Wiesner has his hand up, Mayor.
Councilor Wiesner?
Thank you, Mayor. CAC, if we move this motion forward tonight, are we committing to this annexation?
No, we are not. We are just going to work together. This is not the approval of the annexation. This is just the approval to move forward so that the city and the applicant to work together and prepare the documents, prepare the petition, prepare the legal description that needs to be annexed into the city. And then that'll come and forward to the city council as an ordinance. And that's when you will actually annex the property in.
So we're not committing to that end as of yet.
No,
We're just committing to the moving forward in the investigation.
That is correct. You can get to the very end,
All right.
with personal challenges, you can say, we're not interested in annexing. It's entirely up to the council.
So any
All right.
other questions? We're voting now to amend the motion, and so the motion and second to amend it to add the parcel number. Any other questions? Seeing none? You want to hear them both again? You want to hear, okay, you all right? Any other, okay, so we're voting on the amendment to add the parcel number. All in favor, say aye, or raise your hand. Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, so now we'll go back to the motion, and you've got that, Julie. Maybe you should read that.
Yes, Mayor, I do. Thank you. The motion is by Mayor Pro Tem, move an investigation for future annexation forward for this property, including the parcel number, and I do not have the parcel number in front of me, although you read it very quickly, thank you. And that is the conclusion of the motion.
And that motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilor Hoffmeyer.
That's correct.
Okay, any other questions? Okay? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Okay. Well, good, we're moving forward. So, thank you for your patience out there, and I think that's the last item on our agenda for this evening. So unless council has any additions, seeing none, we will, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we are adjourned, thank you.